The year is 1595. You're a prince of the most powerful empire in the world. Born into unimaginable luxury in Istanbul's Topkapi Palace. But today is no celebration. Your older brother, Mehmed III, has just taken the throne. You and your 18 brothers, some of them just infants, are summoned. But you're not being honored. In the next room, deaf-mute executioners are waiting with silken cords, because royal blood is sacred and can't be spilled. This was the brutal reality of Ottoman succession. On a single night, 19 coffins left the palace. To stop this endless cycle of bloodshed, a new solution was created, a gilded prison known as the Kafes, or the Cage. But was a lifetime of psychological torment really more humane than a quick death? This is the dark reality of the princes of Topkapi. To understand the Cage, you first have to understand the bloody tradition it replaced. From its earliest days, the Ottoman Empire was torn apart by succession wars. When a sultan died, it was a starting gun for his sons. Each son, a governor with his own army, would race to the capital to claim the throne. The winner got the empire. The losers and all their sons got the executioner's cord. It was a brutal but effective way to ensure stability. This practice was so routine that Sultan Mehmed II, the man who conquered Constantinople, actually made it law in the 15th century. He declared that for the order of the world, whichever son seized the throne had the right to execute his brothers. For over 150 years, this law of fratricide cast a dark shadow over the dynasty. With huge harems, sultans often had dozens of sons, making every succession a potential bloodbath. The absolute peak of this horror was Mehmed III's ascension in 1595. The murder of his 19 brothers, many of them children, sent a shockwave of disgust through the court and the public. The sight of all those small coffins being carried out of the palace was a trauma the empire would unforget. The next sultan, Ahmed I, had seen this horror up close and refused to kill his own brother, Mustafa. It was an act of mercy born from trauma, but it accidentally set the stage for a new kind of cruelty. The problem of rival heirs was still there, and a new solution was needed. So what was the alternative to mass murder? Containment? This was the birth of the Kafes, literally, the cage. But this wasn't a cage of iron bars. It was a series of opulent, lavishly decorated apartments hidden away in the imperial harem of Topkapi Palace. These weren't dungeons. They were luxurious prisons. Princes were locked away here, sometimes from as young as 7 or 8, under constant house arrest and the watchful eyes of palace guards. They were completely cut off from the world. No political training, no military experience, not even a proper education in how to rule. Before the Kafes, princes were sent to govern provinces, learning the skills they'd need to one day lead. Now, their entire world shrank to a few gilded rooms. Their only company, servants, and specially chosen baron concubines to make sure they couldn't produce any rival heirs of their own. The goal was simple: keep potential successors alive to ensure the dynasty wouldn't die out, but also keep them neutralized as threats. This system started in the early 17th century, changed the rules of succession from father to us to agnatic seniority, meaning the throne would now pass to the oldest living male in the family. Prince could spend decades locked away, just waiting for his turn to rule, or more likely to die of old age and beautiful, mind-numbing isolation. The Kafes was a psychological torture chamber disguised as a paradise. The environment itself was designed to break a man's spirit. Imagine living for decades in the same few rooms, no matter how luxurious. Your only view of the outside world was through stained glass windows or lattice screens that twisted the sunlight into patterns on the floor. These princes were denied the simple act of looking at an open sky or a distant horizon. This isolation had devastating effects. With no meaningful purpose, the princes fell into a state modern psychologists call learned helplessness. Their entire lives were controlled by others, from the food they ate to the few people they saw. This bred chronic anxiety, depression, and deep-seated paranoia. Every footstep in the hall, every new guard, every whisper from the palace could mean your executioners were finally coming for you. This constant grinding fear, mixed with crushing boredom, was the perfect recipe for a mental breakdown. It was Sultan Ahmed, The first himself, the man who created this system, who best captured the feeling, saying, "It is better to die once than to die every day." He knew the terror firsthand. The cage didn't just produce inexperienced rulers, it produced deeply, psychologically damaged ones. The first true product of the Kafes system was Sultan Mustafa I, spared by his brother Ahmed I. He spent about 14 years in confinement. While some historians think Mustafa may have already had mental health issues, his long isolation undoubtedly made them worse. When Ahmed died in 1617, Mustafa was dragged out of the Kafes and declared Sultan. Why? Because powerful court officials were terrified that Ahmed's young son, Osman, would bring back the tradition of brother killing. The court quickly realized its mistake. Mustafa's behavior was bizarre and deeply unsettling. He would run through the palace halls, knocking the turbans off his top officials' heads, and crying out for his dead brother to come back and take the throne from him. He was even seen throwing gold coins to the fish in the Bosphorus. After just 3 months, it was clear he was unfit to rule, and he was sent back to the Kafes. He would later have a second, equally disastrous reign. His story was a chilling omen of what the cage could do. Some called him Mustafa the Saint, trying to frame his madness as a kind of divine vision. But for most, he was the first terrifying warning of the system's human cost. If Mustafa was a warning, Sultan Ibrahim was the full-blown catastrophe. Ibrahim spent 22 years locked in the Kafes, living in constant fear for his life. His brother, the ruthless Sultan Murad IV, had already executed 4 of their other brothers. Ibrahim was only saved because their powerful mother, Kafes Sultan, intervened. When Murad died in 1640, Ibrahim was the last surviving male of the Ottoman dynasty. But when the Grand Vizier came to tell him he was now Sultan, Ibrahim was paralyzed with terror. He barricaded the door, convinced it was a trick to lure him out and kill him. He only believed he was safe after his mother had his brother's corpse brought to the door of the Kafes for him to see with his own eyes. The man who finally emerged was broken beyond repair. His reign descended into such depravity and incompetence that he is known to history as Ibrahim the Mad. He was driven by bizarre obsessions, became fixated on furs, demanding entire rooms be lined with expensive sable and lynx. Legend claims his lust was so out of control that after seeing a cow, he had a golden cast of its rear end made and sent across the empire to find a woman with a matching figure. His behavior grew more sadistic and paranoid. In one infamous, though likely exaggerated story, it's said that, in a fit of rage, he had his entire harem of 280 women drowned in the Bosphorus. His disastrous rule drained the treasury and started a pointless war with Venice, leading to his downfall. In the end, he was executed by strangulation, the very fate he had spent his entire life dreading. The damage didn't stop with Ibrahim. For over 2 centuries, the Kafes produced sultans who were often unprepared to govern. Many who took the throne after decades in confinement were frail, depressed, and politically inept, making them easy puppets for scheming court factions. The system designed to secure the dynasty became a key ingredient in its long decline. However, the image of every sultan until the end being a lifelong prisoner is not accurate. By the mid-19th century, the Kafes system had largely faded away. Sultans like Abdul Mesid moved the court from Topkapi to new European-style palaces, effectively ending the era of the cage. The final sultan, Mehmed VI, who came to the throne in 1918, he did not spend his life in confinement. But the legacy of the Kafes endured. It had created a tradition of raising princes who were isolated and inexperienced. While the physical cage was gone, the cage of a sheltered, politically sterile upbringing remained. This left generations of rulers unprepared for the immense challenges of the modern world. The last sultan inherited a collapsing empire, a frail figurehead, who was the final product of a system that had long prioritized survival over competence. The Ottoman Cage stands as a grim paradox. It was created as a humane reform to stop the butchery of fratricide, but it simply replaced a swift death with a slow one that rotted the mind. It saved princes from the executioner's cord only to hand them over to decades of paranoia, madness, and despair. The story of the cage raises a timeless question about power. What is the true price of stability? Was this gilded prison a necessary evil, or was it the fatal flaw that crippled the Ottoman dynasty from within? sealing its eventual fate. If you found this dive into the dark side of history compelling, be sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next story.